Today's program focuses on new way to perceive art, learn and entertain oneself, how object and complex spaces are created in virtual reality. Both projects bring Ukraine to the forefront of virtual reality developments. Master of Craft delves into the 21st century environment of humankind. The history of the last centuries mainly included the growth of human needs. In the early 19th century, it was difficult to imagine an economy without the agricultural sector playing a lead role. Food has always been a necessity good. Then, Henry Ford invented conveyor automobile production, which allowed people with mid-level incomes to buy a car. In the middle of the 20th century, it seemed that people could not live without developed industry. There were cars and household appliances, and people could live comfortably without the frills. As soon as the information technology boom hit in the early years of the 21st century, people simply could not imagine their lives without communication via the internet, various gadgets and electronic services. In this environment, almost every day, new digital thing-a-magics are introduced to the market that after a couple of decades may become a new bare necessity for people all over the world. VR, virtual reality, became one such rapidly developing technology. The Arsenal Book Festival in Kyiv is the main literary event of Ukraine that annually attracts thousands of art lovers. However, something unique for modern Ukraine happened at the Arsenal Book Festival 2017. Specifically, the presentation of the book about world-renowned artist abstractionist Vasily Kandinsky was combined with immersion into one of the previously unknown pictures in the absolute direct sense of the word. How do you usually present news pictures? Either you casually stroll through a museum and admire them, or you take some reproductions, or you simply leaf through a few books of well-known works of art. And people do not fully realize when they are told about finding unknown watercolor paintings by Kandinsky. So what is their reaction and how does a person perceive this? Natalia Hrimyak, jointly with Volodymyr Tsvil, the author of the book Unknown Kandinsky, decided to expand the borders of the usual perception of art. The idea of turning Kandinsky's picture that was recently found into virtual reality came to their minds just a couple of weeks before the presentation. That is, what seemed incredible 10 years ago, today has become an extremely relevant issue. Further in the program, why are Vasily Kandinsky's works compatible with the most modern technologies and how canvas is transmogrified into space? This prolific artist is considered to be the founder of one of the main trends of the 20th century, namely abstract art. Vasily Kandinsky developed himself as a creative personality in Odessa and later in Munich, where most of his works are still exhibited to this very day. The best of his paintings, as a rule, do not have names and a clear visual plot. This is precisely how the abstractionist method is defined and constructed. Artists like Vasily Kandinsky and Kazimir Malevich abandoned realistic images in favor of certain color combinations and geometric forms, causing viewers to feel the completeness and finality of a particular composition. More simply put, abstractionist paintings make anyone think out loud about them and enjoy the infinite search for their meanings. Hitler's Germany and the Soviet Union banned this form of art as they considered it harmful. For this reason, true connoisseurs were forced to have many of their works from destruction in secretly hidden collections. Some of these paintings have become public after decades, but sometimes it is simply not enough to simply digitize them and make reproductions. The geometric nature and form of such paintings can now be realistically interpreted through three-dimensional models. Kandinsky's paintings is very symbolic. I would even say that in a strange way it is some kind of code. That is, certain archetypal and classical forms and techniques of art, some experiments and risky moves are quite evident in this work. I would even call them rather challenging to the eye of the average viewer.
Я бы даже сказал, некий вызов.
Art director of the Ukrainian innovation company, Alexei Moseichuk, faced the challenge of making the VR version of the abstract painting in the shortest time to manage to make it for the presentation at the Arsenal Book Festival. According to him, it's equally difficult to make geometric forms by Kandinsky and traditional objective paintings virtually realistic. It was necessary to prepare something realistic within a very tight deadline of 10 days. One of the first concepts included turning color spots into particles or some kind of dust and illumination that surrounds the viewing audience and incites, or at least should have incited pleasant feelings in them.
И вызывает у него, должны были вызвать такие довольно приятные ощущения.
Scientists have already proven that after a minute of wearing virtual reality glasses, the human brain is deceived and begins to perceive what it sees as reality, even if the quality of the image is far from realistic. What sensations inside such immersion remains a question that no experts have yet found an answer to. An overly mobile and resplendent environment can induce dizziness amongst most viewers. A three-dimensional abstract picture full of color spots can transform into geometric chaos and cause discomfort for the human eye. Perhaps in this way, it can be better interpreted, better for VR?
Мы увидели девушку, бегущую по железнодорожному мосту.
We saw a girl running along a railway bridge. She had a bottle of champagne in one hand. She had a joyful smile, was waving her hair and spinning a summer umbrella around her body. We had an idea to turn the symbolic forms into a more realistic picture. The spots really turn into the running girl, and we start to see the bridge and the horizon.
Действительно, бегущую девушку, мы начинаем видеть мост, горизонт.
However, this approach contradicted the very nature of the abstract art. The viewer has to interpret the picture on his own, and they should enjoy the process of recognizing images in symbols. As a result, the final decision was a virtual dance.
И мы решили просто оживить.
We decided to revive every spot, make it organic, flexible, and we made a kind of dance. It was a dance spinning around viewer.
Танец, кружащийся вокруг зрителя.
The visitors of the book exhibition had the opportunity to see and hear the story about the first and the only picture of the artist Vasily Kandinsky that was transported to a virtual reality platform.
И мы спроецировали работу на плоскость и прямо по плоскости повторили каждый объект, каждое пятно, каждый небольшой росчерк.
We projected the work onto a plane and we turned each object, spot, and light stroke into a three-dimensional figure. As a result, the objects came to life. They moved flexibly and elastically, spun around our heads, and then once again came together into a flat plane in a picture.
И потом складываются снова в плоскую картину.
What opportunities VR opens for the world of art, and how to find yourself in the Chernobyl nuclear reactor without anti-radiation protective wear. The presentation of the Kandinsky 360 project was a great success. One of the ideas is to turn virtual experience into genuinely realistic excursion. One of the most renowned critics, art historian, who, as it turns out, is an advisor of abstract arts for international and Ukrainian auctions, saw this picture and offered the following comments on this work. Oh yes, indeed, it is very interesting. We would like to interest him in further telling about this abstractionist piece of art in greater detail in order that this virtual reality picture would be more informative in nature for the broader audience. It is totally possible to establish an entire exhibition or even a museum in virtual reality. This May, the British Museum launched an unprecedented project called VR Tours of several art expositions. This made it possible for the general public to see Assyrian and ancient Egyptian sculptures, as well as the famous mummies of the pharaohs through virtual reality glasses. It is enough to access the museum's page in the social network to find three-dimensional presentations and set the required mode in the browser so that one can enjoy the museum exhibits as a usual visitor. The list of expositions in VR is constantly updated. In a few years, every self-respecting world museum will open its virtual doors to visitors. Instead of storing pictures in their homes, art collectors will give people who are interested in buying them access through virtual reality. This has a dual purpose. It will give your art students the possibility to paint in VR and visitors to enjoy pictures from that are presented in auctions from the inside. It is difficult to overestimate the possibilities of a 3D dimension technologies from modern education, Alexei Masachuk believes.
В первую очередь, я считаю, VR может значительно ускорить.
First of all, I believe that VR will significantly speed up the learning process several times over. I can boldly say this with confidence. We can make a prototype of any teaching program from any institute and everything that can be learned and mastered through the application of symbols.
Символической преподнести, в которой будет изложено все, что необходимо усвоить.
The simplest example is 3D geometry. Today, it is possible to build any figures and study their properties in VR, not through formulas, but through direct interaction. In short, a single touch is worth 1,000 words. A more complicated technology is remote training of professionals. Ukrainian developers are working on an international project that will allow experts in any technical field to present lessons to beginners in real time through application of the immersion effect. This also includes augmented reality, which is a form of VR, when a digital image is integrated in a real picture. In other words, this technology allows only one engineer to repair an aircraft engine wearing special glasses, while another engineer can observe this process in first person, adjust the process, or give advice on how this process works. In Ukraine, there is quite sufficient number of talented individuals who create such innovative gadgets that keep up with the times and are in fact way ahead of many other countries. And this is absolutely great. One of the latest Ukrainian VR projects is a virtual tour of the Chernobyl Atomic Energy Station, CHAES. With the help of drones, thousands of photos of the buildings were taken in the autumn of 2016, when the protective sarcophagus was changed over the exploded fourth power unit. This allowed to look into places and premises inaccessible to a person without serious anti-radiation protection. Needless to say, turning photos into a virtual reality model is painstaking manual labor. Thousands of photos give information on the volume of space, and inside the environment, an editor, with the help of a camera operator and a painter, turned this into a 3D image that allow one to move around the space, look around, and even sit down to have a rest. Some futurists fear that virtual reality will replace the ordinary reality that most people have grown accustomed to. When specialized suits for full immersion into VR games are made available for retail sale, one can expect that players of the game will spend the rest of their lives in this virtual environment. On the other hand, recent studies prove the effectiveness of VR for rehabilitation of people that suffered a stroke and other severe nervous diseases. History repeats itself. In the same way, at the dawn of the Internet, there was a fear that it would fully eliminate human communication. But in fact, the worldwide network expanded the possibilities of communication in general. Indeed, a 21st century person will soon become dependent on VR technologies, which today are capable of making them smarter and more sensitive. In conclusion, Ukrainian virtual reality projects are the foremost of this futuristic innovation that welcomes the human race to the 3D world.